anybody who comes into the public eye that's really telling the truth, they fucking assassinate them.
Yep.
Like,
I think that just baseline human consciousness is going to misappropriate everything it touches and use it just for the same old shit. And I just think that's just kind of timeless and universal.
in any field, like, you have to dig, because what's readily available is just to keep people comfortable.
Inner
So you
work
can feel
doesn't
like a person.
pair well with capitalism. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The big hormone Enneagram.
Let me lay it on the line. I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres 4-5 link, 4-5-8 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with 1, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-7, sexual self-pres with 8-5-4 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 3-6-9 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
I haven't finished the live pod, but I do kind of like how, Emeka, you were saying that it's sort of like a new beginning.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, it made me think of like, man, all right, new beginning, like we've covered so much material, like what could we talk about? And I don't know, there's something like on the very like periphery of my thinking about something about like what is the Enneagram, which I know is super vague, but
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the ways that we talked on the pod about what to expect in terms of like our content is kind of cover some of it, but I don't know. There's for me, there's like the mystical side, which is like inner work and what that means, and even that like human personality takes this shape or form based on a symbol, or that at least you can symbolize it in such an elegant, beautiful symbol, human personality.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also like difference between this and other systems, or what it even means to grow, like all these kind of questions.
Yeah.
Because the rarity of people actually growing, like how rare that is.
Right.
And then like, I guess, and then that turns into like a little bit about like meaning, like what's the, all right, so we're like stuck in this life. And if growth is something that we aim for, but it's like kind of like hard and rare, and it's so in a sense we could only get a little bit of growth, maybe. I'm reading this book that I started when I went to Peru, that Graham Hancock, that guy that's tracing the ancient civilization, and this is based on it's called Heaven's Mirror, and it's got like every page is full of images, so it's cool, like you can see what he's talking about. It's all about all these astronomical alignments with different monuments throughout different periods of time and what they were doing, and basically like the meeting of heaven and earth, as representing like these monuments are meant to connect ground and sky, right? And so, and they did these things over hundreds and hundreds of thousands and thousands of years, and so it's just this like one of the things I always look at with these kinds of deals is, man, this stuff was so alive for them, or so on fire for them, or like so clear sense of purpose, that it wasn't just one civilization that was imposing some kind of religious dogma that everybody had to follow. It was like many, many different societies had similarly strong like convictions, and
it was
perspectives.
experientially alive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like what is like what's the kind of like equivalent or something, Does that make sense?
The Enneagram?
Yeah, or just like our own in our own modern like world and way we go about things and way we try to learn through the Enneagram, like is it just like, oh, it's really fascinating, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it takes me to, well, like even the goofy post I did today, you know what I mean? Where there's, I don't know if you saw it, John.
I think I saw you post it, but I didn't read it.
I mean, well, again, I'm doing the thing, but it's like, I mean, the Enneagram is like this atomic magic living symbol, and there's to me, part of what you're saying maybe is to, I don't know, go full bore into that. You know what I mean? The fact that it is this, it has a living dynamic to it, and it has so many different angles and represents so many different things. You know, it is really what Gurdjieff said it was, you know, that it's all the libraries of the world right in front of you, kind of.
Right. Right.
I mean, you know, we end up maybe sounding like religious proselytizers or whatever, but
I mean, that's kind
whatever.
of the same vein, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why people go to church on Sundays. They want to hear something.
That's right.
I mean, that's why the Enneagram, this Ian Cronin book, blew up so well, because it fits right into that whole pursuit that people have of, hey, if you read the Bible and if you do what it says, then you're going to be this type of person, and so the whole idea of spirituality and growth, it all, it seems to be the same sort of mystical, I want to figure out what the purpose of living is and how I can, you know, get beyond I don't know, the human instincts to do this and that, and how do I see beyond all that stuff, and so that's why people seek out spiritual traditions, and
Yeah.
so that's why I think the Enneagram has been huge in evangelical or Christian circles, because it fits real nicely into that whole agenda.
Yeah, I mean, even the Christian evangelical thing or just anything like that.
Right.
I mean, underlying, people are wanting to experience that mystical glow. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
aliveness or something. You know what I mean? They think maybe by following a certain set of rules or, you know, tenets or whatever, that they're going to have this kind of experience of, you know, something transcendent.
Meaning, like some kind of
Yeah.
purpose. And so you might get that kind of sense of purpose and meaning from a church institution, or some people join cults, or
Right.
you know, some people turn to typology, and it just so happens that the Enneagram is the one that cuts the deepest. But I mean, all of the different, I think all the different typologies are doing a version of that. Michael teachings and fucking MBTI is probably the first one that people get into, but they're all sort of like, in my opinion anyways, sort of like mini religions where people are trying to like get to the other side, get beyond just the mundane existence of being human, and find some kind of meaning behind, like, oh, this is why I'm this way, and maybe there's more to me than just eating, shitting, and fucking.
Yeah, the evangelical thing always kind of confuses me, because to me, it seems like, in a sense, evangelicalism is like incompatible with the Enneagram, given that it's
Right.
one is like giving you a rule book, and then the other one is like look inside. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've just been reflecting on like being in the Gurdjieff work and stuff like that, and like it's like fucking hard. It's like really hard, and just how asleep we all are, and you know, like watching other people, and it's just like, God, this is atrocious. You know?
Oh, you know what? One of the love lines that came in was actually kind of like related to this. Someone had asked if she had asked if we thought or believed that the Enneagram could become a widely used tool by society to like get beyond,
interesting.
like, you know, to actually develop. And so, I mean, I think this thing that we're talking about would be sort of relevant to what she was asking. But I mean, to your point, John, we discovered so much stuff in 2020 last year that just completely, I don't want to say reimagined, but it's just so many new tools at our disposal that are just making things a lot sharper. And so even doing, from a typing perspective, doing database reviews and going back and looking at some like old typings that we've just always just accepted as, like, you know, like Bowie and fucking Michael Jackson and all these fucking legacy typings that no one ever questioned for whatever reason. But with like the Hexad versus attachment under our belt, it's like, man, like maybe before we said something's wrong about this typing, but we can't figure out what it is. But now we're like, this Hexad versus attachment stuff is like, that's such a huge deal. Like our type 4 list is, we've chopped off so many fucking our list is just dwindling down because now we're like getting really clear because of all the things that we've learned in the last year or so as to how these type structures are working because of the hexad versus attachment and the object relations. It's becoming extremely clear as to how to identify and see these type structures. So yeah, why we could just start over because the kind of questions we would be asking,
Right.
it would be a completely different deal to redo those type interviews.
And even the trifix thing has, we've deepened in that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it becomes
Totally.
a part of all of it. I mean, those have become more and more clear, cartoons or whatever,
I think that would be good to like spend like a long series going over the trifix and really talking about it from this attachment hexad point of view of I was talking to somebody I was explaining to a client the trifix roast names, and because he was curious about trifix, and I was going through the whole thing about DJs and stuff like this, and and how like there is this the two attachment fixes with the one and the two assertive fixes and blah blah blah, like how there's a kind of like the vibe, there's like this attachment to the vibe,
right,
and the 2, 3, 7, these delivering something. So like I'd have to listen to those episodes again, but we kind of just like briefly covered it. But I think that with now we have enough experience with nearly all the trifixes.
Yeah.
That we could say a lot more interesting, specific, and funny stuff.
Yeah. And just how useful it is to look at like, okay, if like how noticeable it is once you get a hexad fix. Like Bermuda is sort of like the baseline. And just typing people, it's just interesting to see how people can now recognize like that baseline. This is just, it feels normal. There's nothing that really stands out. Once you add a one hexad fix, it is so loud and noticeable. It's so like it's so loud and noticeable that and then you can get into the what type of a hexad fix it is and what that adds to the whole mix. So yeah, you can get really specific as to the trifix roast names or the descriptions when you start looking at the mix of hexad and what type of hexad versus attachment is showing up in the trifix.
Right. Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Nancy.
Yeah.
Do the intro.
Hi, podcast people. I was late, so I have to do the intro now. It's my punishment, and I hate it. Welcome to our love lines. Here's the guys.
Buy John's book, and give it. I just broke 100 reviews and ratings. So if you could please increase my numbers, positive or negative, and buy my book, please.
Sales are still holding steady for you.
I think yeah. Surprisingly, yeah.
That's good.
And I'll just say this because I announced it on the last the live pod. Which you should watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you want to see how
Our
uncomfortable
faces.
we are in our bodies. But I'm working on I've done a couple episodes, haven't published it yet, of a new podcast with my friend Kara called The Blind Spot, and it's going to be about like interviewing people about their blind spot and all the suffering it creates.
So John is cheating on us with another podcast.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say, I feel slight bit of jealousy to that, and I don't appreciate it.
We're not open to polyamorous.
She's another
podcast
three
relationships.
I
very
don't appreciate
pod
hearing
promiscuous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys open things up with dark arts, so the family is expanding.
Called out.
Incest is everywhere.
We cheated first, I guess.
Polyamory.
Which, by the way, speaking of dark arts, learn how to type with Dark Arts Academy. That's our new ad. Learn how to type with Dark Arts Academy. And everyone is aware that there's this Johnny Depp Amber Heard case going on. So we did a couple classes on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Great, entertaining. She's an amazing human being. You'll love watching her.
They're both fucking such train wrecks.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I think at some point I want to have a deeper conversation. Probably have the guys on to talk about why typing. I think I had a couple people ask in the group like why they should be interested in watching typing classes, and the value of learning how to type. And I think quick summary of that for me at least is just like the work that we do when people come to us to try to understand their type and to try to catch themselves doing their type, that we're able to do that because we have spent a lot of time practicing identifying types that they're showing up in people. And so this whole thing that you're able to do with yourself, to see yourself doing your own type, it's essentially the same thing that you have to do when you're typing someone. And so that ability to say, this behavior and this pattern and this thing that you've been exhibiting, to see it in yourself and to see it in other people, you have to work the same muscle when you're learning how to see these types. And that's also a really great way to learn how to learn an Enneagram. Like, what is frustration? What is rejection? And what does that actually mean in a real person? So that's what we're doing with Dark Arts Academy. It's you're learning these concepts on this pod or on our websites, but how do you actually apply it in real life, in real time? So that's what you can do at Dark Arts Academy. So go to Enneagrammer.com. It's only $19 a month. You can cancel anytime. Learn how to type.
We might do an episode with me and
Yes.
Joseph.
Yeah, to talk about why
Cool.
typing is important. But yeah.
By David's Trifix booklet.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yes.
I'm floating the idea of starting a study group with my book, that I might just
Good idea.
we read a chapter together and then we talk about the inner work ideas, and I might be pay $10 or $15 to get in or something like that.
Mhm.
That's a great idea.
So I'll figure that out and I'll post about it in the group.
Is that essentially the starting point for the school idea, or is that just different?
Maybe.
It sounds fancier when you say I'm starting an Enneagram school. Dun dun dun.
I'm starting an Enneagram school, guys. No, that is something I'm interested in, and I guess to riff off of what you were saying, Emeka, about the importance of typing. That's a really important skill, and because it really gets you clear with what the energies or qualities or facets of a type
Mhm.
are, what the ego is and what it's doing and what people are doing, what you're doing in every moment. And I think that with the internet being what it is, there's plenty of information out there, and a lot of it is not very good, but there's a lot of information, and then there's a lot of good information that I, in a biased way, think is kind of under our umbrella out there, and more to come. But there's not a lot like the Enneagram Institute is not really doing anything, and they were the one school that I would recommend people get certified with, and they're not really doing anything. And I certification, I don't, what is that? I don't even fucking know. But
Right.
I feel like there needs to be a place where people can develop the skills they need to teach the Enneagram, not just in terms of information, but in terms of what that means and represents in an inner sense. And then also what I would call Enneagram facilitation, which is how to work with people with the Enneagram, which is different skill than teaching it. And what is, and both require one to do one's own inner work. And so, yeah, I'm thinking about that idea, and we'll see where it goes. But
And there needs to be some other institution, that develops over the years
Yeah.
that's different from IEA, all that,
Right.
and that whole
Mm,
style and that world.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've essentially created a decentralized Enneagram universe, and so there needs to be a structured school part of that. And John, you're the only one. you're the guy.
Thank you.
You're the one who's got to do it. But so yeah, we're doing Loveline, and I think when we did the live pod, one of the questions that was left over that I thought was worth addressing is, are we going to do more video pods? And people really responded well to it, and it's sort of like the podcast standard, and it's just one of those things where it's just going to take some time to be able to, where I can get to a point where I can consistently produce something like that. But I think every time we meet up, we can do one of those, and maybe we can do video pods where we're you just, even remotely, we're still seeing ourselves video, and we can do that every other month or something like that, just to eventually get to a point where this pod is has a video component. But down the line, it's probably going to be one of those premium subscriber things.
Ooh.
I was going to say all the podcasts I listen to, you have to subscribe to see them.
Yes. So that's it might take a year to get there, but I will eventually figure out how to produce a weekly video version of this thing, and those of you who care enough will get to
See our cold,
subscribe.
dead eyes.
Yes. The evil that lurks.
But anyway, yeah, the we were having a little conversation about like the Enneagram as a developmental tool, and so somebody sent in a Loveline that's sort of asking a question that was sort of covering that, so we can continue that conversation. Let me play it.
Hi, this is Sarah, and I'm calling from New York. This is a question that's been on my mind ever since discovering the Enneagram, and I'd be interested to hear how y'all think like this incredible tool could be understood and used widely, because the power that it holds beyond, the individual typing and everything, it's just unending. But, above anything, it highlights the inherent strength and diversity and difference, rather than in modern day societies like the United States, where one or two ways of being are seen as dominant and everyone is fighting each other for those. So anyway, just thinking about how you guys see this more long-term, more macro. Thanks so much for this podcast. It's great.
She said she was. Who's that in New York?
She says she's from New York. Do you know who that is?
What's her name?
Sarah.
I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, her question was just like, how do we see the Enneagram long-term macro as a developmental tool for society? I think we're sort of talking about that.
I mean, I think that like, if and when Jesus Christ was around, people were like, wow, this would be really great if everybody just like, this is gonna save everybody. and then it's just
And
like,
then it fucked the whole world over.
leads the Inquisition in the United States of America,
Yeah.
I think that just baseline human consciousness is going to misappropriate everything it touches and use it just for the same old shit. And I just think that's just kind of timeless and universal, where it's like we use, I don't know. I just don't see. I think it can help individuals, but I don't have a lot of hope in terms of uplifting the world.
Yeah, I think our friend Josh, who is a lot of he's social 3, who wants to take the Enneagram as a developmental tool and blast it to the world, and so he has a lot of hope that this can really like the real Enneagram, not the watered down Enneagram, can be something that people would be open to receiving. And I disagree with that, because I think the Enneagram inherently is cutting so deep that anybody who comes into the public eye that's really telling the truth, they fucking assassinate them.
Yep.
Like, people don't want to grow like that. They don't want to change to that degree. So with the things that become popular tend to be watered down, and they tend to be things that just affirm people's comfort zones. And so the Enneagram is really uncomfortable. And we've seen this over the last 5 years of running this group and all the stuff that we've done, like how often people really do want to grow and they have the intention to grow. But when they're confronted with themselves and their shadows, like, they get fucked up, and everyone has their shock and horror reactions, and this happens over and over and over again. And that's how strong, how powerful the Enneagram is. And so I think if you're not watering this stuff down, I don't really believe that it's going to be this mainstream hit. I don't think that's possible, but I think it's one of those things where when people are looking for something powerful like that, like it would be cool that if it was readily available for people who are seeking an experience like that. But I still think that it's always going to be the minority, just like in every other field. If you really want to find out the truth in any field, like, you have to dig, because what's readily available is stuff to keep people comfortable.
Right. I mean, I think that like, I don't know if anybody listening has seen like Sherwin Williams, that paint company, has like, I'll see it get posted in Facebook groups every now and then, but it's like Sherwin Williams paint swatch combinations by Enneagram type.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
and they're also all
Is
objectively the
four
worst, most.
turquoise?
I can't remember, but they're all
I
like
bet it's
fucking
turquoise.
horrible. Like
They're
the
just
worst taste. Like
Ugly pastel crap.
hideous.
Beige. Cosmic
Yes.
beige.
Cosmic latte and but like lavender purple, like but if you I don't know, poured, urine into it and mixed it around. It's like that color. So it's just horrible. But I think it'll just be like how to give the algorithm more control and power and
Mhm.
like what do just how to manipulate votes and how to I don't know, make more people okay with I don't know the
How to sell
Bullshit.
more shit.
situation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's
I almost tagged you, John, in a really shitty Enneagram Instagram post. It was like, and they were like, what each type avoids, and fours was feeling unwelcome,
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
feeling like
Feeling unwelcome.
unaccepted and unwelcomed. And someone literally commented and they were like, I don't think that's right. I was like, even Instagram idiots get this one.
Yeah, amazing what people want to just like post and just be like, yeah, this is it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
it's been weird just watching the commercialization of the Enneagram, just like people trying to sell products based on the Enneagram because it's popping right now.
Right.
And I mean, how do you sell products when you're really getting deep as to like, oh, here's a fucking blanket because I don't feel like I exist and I don't feel like my words matter.
That's the way to do
Inner
it. For the 9 shop, we'll have blankets for those, like weighted blankets or whatever.
Inner
So you
work
can feel like a
doesn't pair
person.
well with capitalism. That's the
No.
answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, somebody sent me, a friend from college sent me pictures at like some Barnes and Nobles or some kind of store like that, that has scented candles based on Enneagram type.
I knew
Just
someone was going to do it. I was waiting for it.
just terrible. Alexander thought it'd be funny to like figure out if there's a way to print our faces on one of those like votive candles, like like those
Like a
Yeah,
Nancy
like
candle,
those
an Emika candle.
those Catholic
yeah,
candles. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you
That'd
get
be
at the grocery store. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the only way I was thinking about starting like a troll store of, just mocking all this commercialization of stuff, but have it like be for real, like for like the real. If you're gonna do a blanket for 9, do it like the nothingness of existence and just real dark stuff.
That'd be amazing.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, like I don't know. Get I can't even think of other products, but 9 would be the easiest to make fun.
Blankets and throw pillows for 9s.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be a fun project just to have like products that people could buy because they're just looking for shit to buy, but it's like actually hitting on some real stuff that make people really uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I don't know, something. There needs to be some sort of like focusing stress discharger thing for 6 or something. Like,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah,
when your
yeah.
mind's popping off, just like squeeze this stress thing, something like that.
Yeah, and then when you squeeze it, it says, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah. It unleashes like a tranquilizing
4s.
gas.
Yeah.
For 4s, a t-shirt that says, if you think I don't like you, I don't.
Okay. So this person sent in a question about attachment styles. I don't think we are necessarily going to have an answer, but it's just,
Hi, my name is Hannah. I am an Enneagram Type 1 with a 2-wing. My trifix is 145. I'm calling because I listened to your episode on attachment, and I am just curious. I know that you guys don't necessarily like to talk about specific psychological theories, but I recently was reading a researcher talking about attachment theory and different Enneagram numbers. And in that process, even before that process, I realized that I had a disorganized attachment style, which is basically someone that has both of the core woundings. And I am curious how that might play into the relational type versus the Hexad type, because I feel like I identify this both of them. I feel like I'm, and I don't know if this has to do with the one just kind of being like really caring about balance and order, and but I feel like I have a very strong sense of self, and I know who I am, and that is undeniable. When you meet me, there is not a sense of at all of needing to impress you. And at the same time, I care a lot about the community, and I care a lot about us getting along, and I care a lot about meeting people halfway. And I feel like I'm constantly triggered by both sides. I'm very triggered by people who I perceive to be manipulative, these like relational types. It's like, I'm going to, I have your back, you do mine. I'm like, I didn't sign a social contract. Like, just because you did good to me one time doesn't mean I owe you nothing. And then the inverse is also true. I have a very hard time working with people that are just so stubbornly always right and so inflexible and can never meet in the middle. I feel like I'm a really good mediator when it comes to, these two extremes and typings. And so I just wanted to know, it seems like most of the ones I know are kind of, we're kind of both. And I don't know if that's a unique thing to the one, or if this has to do more with attachment theory, us having both, many of us having both core woundings. Anyways, I just wanted to know what your thoughts on that were. Anyways, thanks for what you guys do. Appreciate it.
All right. So you just described type 9 to a T. Yeah, I mean everything she was saying there, describing her. I mean, I guess the thing that I want to say or mention or address that she said that she doesn't relate to being an attachment type because she has a really strong sense of self, and that's not it's not saying that attachment types don't have a strong sense of self, but everything else that she described, like I want to meet people halfway, and I really care about mediating. That's at the core of what attachment is.
What were you going to say, Nancy?
I was just going to say, I feel like that's not a very one thing to say, but
no, that's not a very type
that's
one
just
thing
my
to
little
say.
opinion over here.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So I had a hard time she was talking about attachment theory.
Well,
and then
she
went into
yeah.
I kind of had lost the thread.
Yeah.
Well, the thread was that
it's almost lost in the attachment.
She said that
yes,
the attachment theory that she discovered that she was a
nine?
disorganized attachment theory, and so she's kind of has both, and so she said that because of that, she's wondering what we think of someone who relates to both the Hexad and the attachment, because she's doing both in the attachment theory and she relates to doing both in the Hexad versus attachment, and she feels like a lot of type 1s relate to both of trying to meet people halfway, but also knowing their position. Basically what she's describing is not one. It's not Hexad.
Yeah.
That's attachment.
Well, and so, in giving her the benefit of the doubt, like if she's like, let's just, she doesn't, it's not sounding one, but like, all right, let's say it's one. I think that it's like, if you are one, then you're probably overestimating how much you're willing to meet people halfway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that might be a value of like, I meet people halfway, and other people are like, oh, this girl's not
right.
like
she's not flexible at all.
Yeah, now she's deciding this is time to meet halfway. Right? Like now's the time. But like, so one of the things about I've been thinking about one-ishness lately, and one of the things about one is that I think most ones and one fixers do have some sense of caring about good, but a lot of how one functions is not really about actually being good or not. It's kind of like how you justify your agenda.
Right.
And so if you're a one or you got a one wing or whatever it might be, just be mindful and watch that your sense of whatever you think you're doing is more about justifying just the way you are. And I'm not saying anything's necessarily wrong with the way you're doing anything. But if you're needing a lot of, like, if there's a lot of irritation being generated and there's a lot of, like, oh, I'm doing it this way and this should, I want to meet people halfway and this is how they should meet each other halfway. But I'm also doing my position here. Like, there's a lot of irritation in the direction. And so just just be mindful of what you might be, however oneishness plays in your personality, how you might be trying to simply justify the way you are, rather than unpacking different layers underneath what and why you're irritated or why you need certain circumstances to be met in a certain way. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like I've noticed a lot of one fixers just like it's not like the one gives you one in your personality gives you an automatic sense of being good. It's
No. Right. It's like
it's just
knowing already how it should go, already knowing the sense of alignment where like this is the way it should be.
and then like a lot of speaking to one's behaviors and one's decision making according to like an appeal to this is how it should go because it's like this, because this is the thing. And so just be mindful of that. Like, and I think all people that have one component need to just be mindful of that aspect of oneishness where there might even feel like it's serving goodness or something like that, but just be really, really skeptical. Now, I'm kind of last week, Kara, who I'm going to do the podcast with, did like a whole breakdown with me over attachment theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't feel like I have enough, it floats around and people use it all over the place, but I still don't feel like I have enough competency with it
Right.
to talk about it in a very deep way. But I remember she talked about like secure, which is kind of the baseline that most people don't have, anxious, avoidant, and then disorganized.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like people will try to like type themselves in that system, and I think everybody's got a little bit of all of it. I'm sure some people are far more one than the other, but I kind of didn't quite. I thought that's what this caller was talking about. Is that what she was talking about? Like attachment
No.
theory?
She was referencing it to sort of talk about attachment versus Hexad.
Yeah,
she's referencing disorganized, saying that she's disorganized, which is sort of like the average, which is like, I'm a little bit of both. And she's referencing that to say she relates to Hexad versus and attachment. But I think it would be a good call we could do. We could do a call on attachment theory.
Was part of the implication that disorganized would, if she is a one, would make her more attachment-y?
Yes.
Because she'd have some,
Because disorganized attachment one is like the kind of real fucked up one.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what it does.
Disorganized attachment, my understanding is like if you suffered like real trauma or real fucked up situations, there's like a real potential to like have a very dysregulated nervous system and act out in kind of like ways that you need a lot of stability or a lot of competency in dealing with reactions you might have because that it was so erratic when you were a kid that it's like your nervous system doesn't know how to regulate. And so like, I mean, maybe like I don't really know this person. I don't know this person at all other than what she said about herself. So I don't know, I don't know shit about all that stuff, but I am leaning toward 9 even just because I had a hard time following the thread. Of the question.
Just integrating, relating to being a mediator. I think a lot of ones, one might say that, but in reality, ones are pretty. I think in the Enneagram, there's a lot of goodness put on type 1. Like they have good intentions, but ones can be pretty harsh and pretty can be pretty big assholes, and like knowing already how things should go. That gut level certainty is pretty abrasive. So it doesn't necessarily. Go ahead.
It's in a way, it's like more black and white than 8 is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's more invested in the outcome than 8 is.
Another thing that this was making me think of was like when we started unpacking this attachment versus Hexad thing, a lot of 2s were like, oh, but I'm very, like adaptable and really like I just try to meet people where they are and stuff like this. And and so like let's say this caller actually is a 1 wing 2 or whatever. That was something that we also had to find language for to just to articulate for the 2s that were like, oh, I'm attachment-y, but I'm clearly a 2.
They're not.
Yeah, and it's like the 2, just like the 1, really has an agenda. And they don't actually. They think they're listening to the other person, and they think they're a good listener, and they think that listening is important to them, and often they're not doing a very good job of listening at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there's no adapting, like there's like
Yeah.
in that way that attachment types are genuinely adapting and adjusting their sense of self to you. 1s and 2s are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is that sense of listening. I think that was on one of the calls with Courtney. Uh, like attachment types taking in and actually listening, because part of what attachment is doing is trying to find the midpoint between my position and yours, and even as I'm trying to figure out what my position is, as we're trying to align in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that attachment types are better listeners, but it's like the starting point is from I'm going to try to meet you halfway, whereas the Hexad starting point is my position, and then Hexad types might eventually, because they've already assumed that your position is my position, they can end up adapting. So you can end up in the same, you start from different points and maybe end up in the same place, whereas it's like attachment types are not aware of them having a really solid position, but they eventually reveal that, yes, this is actually my location after I feel secure in the attachment. Whereas, Hexad types might start off like, this is my location, but I'll end up adapting to you because I've decided that now you are part of my location. So it's just a different way of going about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think Hexad types they think they're much more flexible than they are.
Right. Yes.
And
100%.
I think that attachment types think they're a lot more solid than they are.
Right. Yep.
Like the adapting or listening of the attachment types is very unconscious. It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, talking with Alexandra and just talking with what our like perspectives have been throughout our lives and stuff like this. Just there's this immediate sense that was unconscious, but it was just sort of like halfway is the starting point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like there's just this like, what I can like consult with my own. I can find a position. It's like it's like so immediate. It's so much like it's already has to be halfway there. If that makes any sense, it's
Yeah.
like, at least from my point of view, I'm like, you're starting out way down the pike in terms in terms of where you're meeting somebody. Like, start with yourself, and then
Right.
Okay.
This next couple ones are just people giving us props.
Okay, what I really appreciate about the Think Hormone Enneagram podcast is the way you all really integrate different facets of the Enneagram theory into understanding the type. You really try to tie different threads together, and that's great. I also like that you are keeping it real and honest, maybe sometimes overly negative, but nonetheless very real and forthright. And I really appreciate your irreverence, and I appreciate your work, and so please keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I feel like I
thank you.
recognize that voice, but I can't remember who it is.
Yeah. I don't know who that is either. All right, here's another one.
Hi, this is Sam. I just want to say thanks for your show. I've listened to and learned a lot from a lot of different Enneagram resources, but what you guys are doing is really special. Through these conversations, which are the fruit and harvest of your own inner work, you guys are rewriting the book beneath our feet. Thanks so much. Listening to this show and learning alongside you guys is a thrill. Thank you.
Cool.
Aw.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
These are some leftover ones from the 100th episode. They were, we had so many. But yeah.
I'd want to ask listeners if there's more that they're like what they're hungry or thirsty for, just from
Mhm.
us. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
sometimes we can feel, I don't know, like, oh, we've talked about that, it's not interesting anymore, or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
just whatever people have been curious about or listening to, or want to hear more about, or not just necessarily specific questions, but topics. I know people get nervous about submitting stuff, but yeah, and also, like, I mean, even new kind of features. Like, one thing that Alexander and I were thinking about doing was recording a couple, like a relationship
Mhm.
kind of spiel, like things about
Yeah.
relationships, and have people call in about it. So
I know people said that they wanted to hear more about, not a 4, but just more about 4. And I think you floated this idea of doing a series, because we've done like all these not a series, and we could do a you're a 6 series, or you're a 9 series, and so we could do a you're a 4 series. So just like to actually talk about our own BHE sort of description of what those types really are, instead of just sort of debunking the bad information, like focusing on what it actually is. So that could be a series that we could do, or a way to
That's
sort
really
of
good.
reapproach the types without doing interviews, or maybe we can still do interviews, but like do like an introduction to all the types based on everything we've learned.
Yeah. And I would definitely like to do just like more interviews, because I don't know, I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be, like I said, what we were just saying about 1s and 2s, having this perspective of being more flexible than they are. Like kind of being able to call a 1 or 2 or whatever out on it while, while we're talking about it. And, because like, I think that's one of the, that's pinging some stuff for me. Cause like, I was thinking if I was to write another book, I might just write more like an intro, or like the kind of entry level book, but covering a lot, and covering it from our perspective. And, one of the things that I think would be really important to have was be how the type sees themselves versus how other people see the type. Because people see 9s as very easygoing and calm and whatever. And a lot of 9s see themselves as chaotic and tumultuous and, moody and stuff. And so what's going on there? So yeah, I think it'd be fun to like unpack the self-image of everybody as each type while we're talking about what's actually going on for them.
And also, I thought of, at least was interesting to me, just the format of the Bermuda Zone with Nancy, Courtney, and Alexandra, because that was sort of like the idea of having a set of predetermined questions, and then it's just a heroin drip of those types there. And I think Courtney had asked for a social Hexad call, and I already have the people in mind to do something like that. And I think it would be really cool to explore some of these type combinations, like the social blind attachment call. Would be really cool. I just want to see what would happen if just social blind attachment types on a call. So yeah, there's just a lot of different things we could try. Of course, just commenting on social commentary is also something that people enjoy. I don't know if we wanted to do an episode on that Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be interested, because I mean, there's different facets of it. Like there's them, and then I mean, I was really a lot of shit came up for me. Like I think I told you all about the histrionic and borderline stuff,
right?
Which is not even about those two figures. It's just like the psychologist so well defining them under scrutiny. I don't know, that brought up some stuff for me. And so anyway,
yeah, you don't want to seem like you're supporting, because it's a pretty heated topic. Yeah, they're both fucked up people.
Yeah.
You don't want to seem like Johnny Depp is far more likable than she is, and she probably did make a lot of stuff up, but you don't want to make it about that. But people are interested in this topic. It's probably the most interesting, most trending topic for the last month, and so we could do an episode on it and sort of explore some of the dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah, and get our social 9 involved, who's been watching like the fucking whole trial.
Because it's very important.
Types are disgusting.
Yeah. Repugnant.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of directions we can go. It's just getting back in the swing of things. The last couple months, we've just all been busy with life.
Yes.
Same as a kid left in the rain. That's it, don't talk to